What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast with Justin and Brandon. It may not officially be the summer break, but we are 12 rounds down in the 2025 Formula One season, which is sad to say because this has been a banger of a year so far, but we are taking some time today, no race this weekend, to look back at these past 12 rounds, grade the drivers on the performance that they have had. We've had some participation from you guys, so we're excited to get to include your opinions as well. Brandon, how you feeling?
Feeling great. Like you said, halfway point of the season. Not the summer break, but it sure feels like it with this massive gap in between races. But you know what? That's okay. We get to take some time and talk about some fun stuff today. So I'm pumped.
Hey, don't worry. We get to survive this massive gap, have a race, and have another massive gap. So we've got too much time without Formula One over the next few weeks, but that's okay because we're going to be here to get through all of it. Let's kick it off with Alpine. We're going in constructors standings order today. So this is a good refresher of the constructors standings and blew my mind when I saw that Sauber was in 6th place after Nico Hulkenberg's podium, which is crazy. But Alpine, officially the worst car in the grid right now, which I think we can all agree. Pierre Gasly, I've given him a B+ so far in 2025. He hasn't had a great year, and I don't think he's had as good of a year as he's had in the past, especially when he's been at AlphaTauri. But he's had a couple good performances this season that have kind of reminded everyone, why he's such a highly rated driver. I think especially this past weekend at Silverstone, he performed well, finished 6th place. He's gotten that car into Q3 a couple times when he shouldn't have. And obviously, he's wiping the floor with his teammates. He's had multiple. He's the only hope Alpine has of scoring points and doing anything good this season. And so, not a great season from Pierre Gasly, but I think it has certainly been above average. I've given him a B+.
Yeah, I've gone with a B for Pierre. I think, there have been a lot of really good performances, but, high highs and low lows as well. But yeah, definitely above average. A great season from Pierre so far. Alpine's only hope and scoring points and otherwise, I think as well. Only hope in general. But yeah, he's had a great season and definitely reminding people why he is a valuable driver on the grid. So
yeah, I hope that they turn that car around next year. Otherwise, Pierre Gasly is stuck in French purgatory for the rest of his career. The fans gave Pierre Gasly a C, which was a little harsh in my mind. Franco Colapinto, I have given Franco Colapinto a D- for the 2025 season. He has not performed well since he's gotten in that Alpine. He's crashed multiple times. Really feels pretty far off Pierre Gasly's pace. I think he's beaten him in like one session across their entire time as teammates so far. And it just feels like he doesn't have confidence in that car. And, I feel confident in saying that this year's Alpine might be worse than last year's Williams. It's a different engine to what he raced last year. So there's a lot of different factors that could be playing into that. But it seems like Franco Colapinto is kind of just a shell of the driver that we saw last year. I've given him a D-.
yeah, I've also gone with a D- just because I didn't want to give Franco an F because, that's obviously the worst grade you can get here, but I don't feel like he's done enough to deserve that, but I wanted to get as close to it as possible because I don't think he's done much more to deserve anything else. Like you said, he does seem like kind of a shell of his former 2024 self. But, there's always time for him to turn things around. Hopefully Alpine gets some good development into the car the second half of the season. Not a lot of high hopes for that as teams start to look towards the new regulations, but we can only hope. So
you didn't want to give Franco Colapinto an F. The fans did. The fans gave Franco Colapinto an F. They did not show as much mercy as you did. Jack Doohan, feels like forever ago that this guy was driving a Formula One car. I've given him a D. And I don't know if this is just because I'm looking back in the past and being like, Jack Doohan, the time before Franco Colapinto with like rose-tinted glasses. I don't know. Yes, he crashed it a couple times as well, but it felt like he was getting his feet under him right before they replaced him. Like he had his best weekend in the sport, beat Pierre Gasly in qualifying, and then they replaced him with Franco Colapinto. I feel like Jack wasn't given a fair shake. I've given him a D.
yeah, I agree with you. I've also given Jack a D as well. I think that, like you said, he was kind of getting his feet under him. He only had 5 races to figure things out in the 2025 car, so not really fair in my opinion either. But Who knows? Maybe if Franco keeps this up, maybe we'll see Jack back in the car at some point.
Yeah, we'll see Jack back in. We'll see Paul Aaron in. We'll see Valtteri Bottas. And if we get to do this video at the end of the year, we're going to have 7 drivers in the Alpine category that we've got to grade. They're all going to get a D because no one can get a hang of the car in 3 races before the next one's in. So it's absolutely insane at Alpine right now. The fans gave Jack Doohan an F as well. Haas, Ollie Behrman, rookie on the grid this season, I've given him a C+. I feel like he hasn't exactly lived up to expectations this year. When he had stand-in performances in 2024, he performed incredibly well. A lot of us had expectations for him to come in and beat Esteban Ocon. He has not done that. Esteban Ocon has had the measure of him multiple times this season, feels like the majority of the time. But I also feel like Ollie Behrman has been a solid, like, P11 merchant. Like, it feels like he's right outside the points every weekend. It hasn't been a bad year at all. He's still getting used to Formula One. It is his rookie season. I don't think he's been the worst rookie on the grid. Solid C+, not a bad year so far, but maybe just a little underwhelming compared to expectations.
Yeah, I've gone with the B minus for Ollie just because I think he has had some really good performances. I think he's had some bad luck go his way, unfortunately, throughout the season. And, he's kind of in no man's land. And I kind of feel like that same thing is true of the grade B minus, kind of in no man's land. It's not really great. It's not really horrible. So that's what I've gone for with Ollie.
Okay, C+, B minus. We feel the same. The fans gave him a C, so we're all feeling around average for Ollie Behrman. Esteban Ocon, I've given him a B minus. I think he has had a slightly better year than Ollie Behrman. He's had more points finishes. He's had some solid points finishes, not just collecting P10s. He's grabbed a P7 this year. So Esteban Ocon's had a solid year. I think maybe outperformed expectations for him a little bit. I think we were kind of downgrading him based on what we saw last year at Alpine, the way it ended, the way he stacked up against Pierre Gasly at the end of the year. But this year, he's been solid. Feels like the solid number 1 at Haas, leading that team. Excited to see what he can continue to do there in the future. Been a pretty solid year from him so far.
I've also gone with the B minus for Esteban, which is the same grade I give Ollie, but I do think that their seasons have been pretty comparable. I think with a little bit better luck, you would have seen Ollie with a lot more points finishes. But I do think Esteban is kind of reestablishing himself as the driver that everybody kind of thought he was the last like 2-3 years up until like the back half of last season. He's definitely the solid number 1 at Haas, and he's providing that kind of reliable veteran driver experience that I think they were looking for in him. So not a bad season at all from Esteban.
Yeah, he's been performing really well in the races. We've seen him get out qualified by Ollie Behrman a couple times, but it feels like he always turns it around on a Sunday, finds himself in the points. The fans gave Esteban Ocon a C, which even though that's just below a B minus, feels pretty harsh to me. I got to be honest, but hey, that's all right. The fans are entitled to their opinions. Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, I've given him a B plus. Yes, I understand that he's behind Lance Stroll in the standings, all right? And I can say it right now, Lance is not getting anything better than a B+. But here's the deal. Fernando Alonso, it felt like at the beginning of the year, we had like a 4-race streak where he was gonna score points, and then something goes wrong in the pits. He has a reliability issue. Man had an incredibly unlucky start to the year. And then he finally catches up to Lance, has some great performances, and then we get this random rainy Silverstone race. Lance gets the better strategy, and he ends up finishing ahead of him. So I understand Fernando's behind his teammate. It hasn't been the best Fernando Alonso year at Aston Martin. It has maybe been Fernando's worst year at Aston Martin so far, but it's also the worst car that he's had at Aston Martin. So kind of hard to grade. I'm inclined to give Fernando Alonso the benefit of the doubt and give him a B+.
I'm going with a B for Fernando. I do think, I wanted to grade him above the Haas drivers. Couldn't give him a B minus, obviously. And I do think he has had a pretty horrible car this year. It's been kind of not very fun to watch, but he is doing well. He is performing well. Kind of the last 5-6 races, he's kind of caught back up to Lance, seemed to get his feet under the car more. And then, Lance finishes super high up the order in Silverstone and, kind of makes the stats a little skewed in his favor once again. But I think Fernando's had a solid season so far.
He only finished P7 in Silverstone. He threw away that P3, fell down the order, and finished P7. So it wasn't that great of a race from Lance. The fans gave Fernando Alonso a B. Lance Stroll, I've given him a C minus. I just went on a rant about the whole teammate comparison, so it is what it is. He set the Q1 exit record this year. You're not getting anything above C minus for me. He now has the most Q1 exits in Formula One history, and he's increasing that. It feels like every single week. We show up in free practice, and Lance Stroll's like P6. Then we get to qualifying, and he's knocked out in P18. What the heck happened? After he had his great performances at the beginning of the year, before Silverstone, brother was a solid P14, just a classic anonymous Lance Stroll race. Yes, it looks good on paper, but that's been like 3 races. For the majority of the races, he's been nowhere. It's been classic Lance Stroll. I can't give him higher than a C minus.
I'm going with a C, just a solid C. It's a bad grade. It's not a good grade, but it's not a horrible grade because I think he has had a couple good performances. Really surprised, I think, everyone at the start of the season with a few good performances, and now he's kind of trailed off. P7 in Silverstone. That kind of helps his case a little bit, but yeah, it hasn't been the worst season for Lance and Aston Martin. It could get better, could get worse. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going with the C.
Yeah, that's why I've given him a C, because it could get better, could get worse. It's just been an average year for Lance Stroll, and that just sums up his career. I guess the fans gave him a D. I don't know how much of anti-Lance Stroll bias is in that, because a D does feel harsh when he is ahead of Fernando Alonso in the points. So that one's a little harsh. Racing Bulls, Isaac Hajar. He has been the best rookie of the year to me this year. I've given Isaac Hajar an A for his performances in 2025 so far. Yes, he's racing in that RB, which somehow they always find a way to mess up strategies, and he's probably lost some points finishes as well. But I would have said you're a liar if you said he was going to be ahead of both Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson at this point of the season in the standings, which he is. He was on Yuki's pace pretty much from the get-go at the start of the year when they were teammates, and we all know how well we rated Yuki in that Racing Bull to start the year. And then he's had the measure of Liam Lawson, continues to be one of the better drivers in the midfield. His momentum has tailed off a little bit, but I'm trying not to have recency bias and look at the season as a whole. I'm giving him an A. I think he's performed well this year.
I totally agree. I think I'm also giving Isaac an A. I think we all kind of wrote him off a little bit as kind of just a fill-in driver until they could get Arvid Lindblad in the car at some point. But Isaac has proven that he is valuable for the team, and he has had a fantastic season so far. I agree with you. I think he has been the best rookie on the grid. But yeah, it's been a good season from Isaac, and it's been fun to watch.
The real question is, will he get demoted to Red Bull next year? The fans gave Isaac Hajar an A. Liam Lawson, this was one of the hardest ones for me to grade. I've given him a C minus. Yes, I have to weigh his 2 races at Red Bull in this equation. Those were not good races. He got demoted, finished last almost every single session. It wasn't good. Upon further reflection, we know that car was horrible. Yuki hasn't done much better. He, too, the last 2 races, has been the last finisher on track. So take that all with a grain of salt. Since he's gotten back to RB, it took him some time to get his confidence back. I think we saw that. But he got his career best finish in Austria. He's ahead of Yuki in the standings somehow. Feels like he's got that mojo back. He's not as far off Isaac Hajar, even beating him in some sessions. Obviously, hasn't been the year that we expected from Liam Lawson. I think it's trending in the right direction. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a better grade come season's end. Right now, I can't give him any higher than a C minus.
Yeah, I'm going with a C for Liam, just for a lot of the same reasons that you just said. But I do think there's been a lot of ups and downs for Liam, but more downs than ups for sure. These last 3-4 races, I really feel like he's kind of, like you said, gotten his mojo back, seems to be more consistent. I think inconsistency was really the biggest issue in the first quarter of the season. But yeah, Liam seems to be performing well and hopefully trending in the right direction.
Yeah, trending in the right direction is how I would describe Liam Lawson. The fans gave him a C. They agree with you. Nico Hulkenberg, I've given him an A minus. This is heavily weighted by the podium that we just witnessed him get, but he's also had some other incredible performances this year. Started the year off strong in Australia, had that great race in Spain. It hasn't all been sunshine and roses. Obviously, he's had a lot of Q1 eliminations. I went and looked back at his points finishes, and he's gaining 10, 12 spots every time. which is great when you do that, but sometimes you get knocked out in Q1. He finds himself middle of the midfield, no points scored. Hasn't been a perfect year from Nico Hulkenberg, but also he's driving that Sauber, which is improved, but still not a great car. I think it's been a really good year from him. I've given him an A minus.
I'm giving him an A, and I do think recency bias is affecting my answer, but I am more than okay with that because that was an amazing podium to watch Nico get. But yeah, he's had a really solid season. Like you said, I think qualifying has been kind of his weakness. He seems to have an amazing Sunday every single Sunday where he's gaining like 8 to 12 positions. But if he didn't qualify P19, maybe he would finish in the points more often. But he's done a great job nonetheless. So it's been a really great thing to watch. And finally, after 239 races, Nico gets his podium.
Yeah, if he gets his first podium, I have no problem with you having a little bit of recency bias. The fans gave him an A as well. You and the fans have been on the same page today, it feels like. Gabriel Bortoleto, I've given him a C. He was kind of under the radar going into this season, I feel like, and I expected more of him. He had the junior formula resume behind him to back it up, and he just has kind of been off Nico Hulkenberg. And this is one of those things, you look at a junior driver and you expect them to be great in the future. You kind of don't expect them to be like almost beating an aging veteran in the sport. Like, yes, Nico Hulkenberg is great, but I'm going to need to see some more flashes from Gabriel Bortoleto to think he has an insane future in the sport. But it hasn't been a bad year. It's been solid, average rookie season in a car that isn't great. I've given him a C.
Yeah, I've also going to see it. I think that he's, kind of done well at times, but it took him, it seems like 6, 7 races to really get his feet under the car and figure out, you know, how to overtake people on track on Sundays. But yeah, I think, he scored his first points. That was a good moment. I think he definitely needed that. It seems like that has boosted his confidence a lot. He seems to be performing better now. And I also think the car is getting better as well. So it's been good to see his good performances. And I think he needed them at the time that they came because if he continued up like what his first quarter of the season was throughout the rest of the season, I don't know that he would, be in Formula One next year. And we don't know if he will be, but I think he's doing enough right now to keep the seat. So,
yeah, another one of those rookies, kind of had an average year, but trending in the right direction. So hopefully he does get to stick around for another year. The fans gave him a C as well. Carlos Sainz, I've given him a C plus. I think it just hasn't been the year that Carlos Sainz has wanted so far. Had to take some time to get up to speed with the car. And then these past couple rounds, feels like he has just had the worst luck possible. Whenever it is presented to him, Carlos Sainz is getting dealt the poor hand, it feels like. But he's had some good performances. Pace-wise, he hasn't been that far off Alex Albon and has even had some weekends that he's been ahead of Alex Albon. I think he's still getting his feet under him in that car. Things are moving in the right direction. I want to give him higher, but based on the performances and the point gap he has to Alex, I've got to give him a C plus.
I'm going to change mine on the fly here. I'm going to give him a B minus.
A B minus?
A B
He's like
minus.
30 points behind Alex Albon.
That's true. I think he has had really bad luck, and we got to take into account the fact that he is learning a new car, and the car itself is not necessarily where we thought it would be. But Alex is performing well in the car, but that's neither here nor there. I think Carlos is doing well, and even when he is not like performing on track, I think he's playing the team game really well. I think we've seen that a few times this season, and he's definitely committed to bringing Williams back up to the front of the grid, which I am going to be so happy to see.
Yeah, I feel like he's suffering from the same problem that Daniel Ricciardo suffered from last year, where at the beginning of the year, where the car was great in the midfield, he was getting outperformed by his teammate. And then now that the car has kind of fallen back into the midfield, now Carlos Sainz is beating Alex Albon more often, but it's not getting the same P7, type performances that it was at the beginning of the year. And so that adds to the point discrepancy as well. B minus still feels a little high to me, I got to be honest. The fans gave him a C, so they're more on my side. Alex Albon, I've given him an A. I think this has been an incredibly solid year. Started the year off strong with some incredible performances. Yes, we've seen the Williams tail off a little bit. We've seen Alex tail off a little bit. But I think just for the pure shock factor of none of us expecting Williams to be this good and Alex Albon capitalizing when the car was that good, I've got to give him an A.
Yeah, I've also given Alex an A as well. I I think he really, you know, shocked everybody when he started performing well. I think we expected Carlos to come into Williams and like just wipe the floor with Alex, and that has not happened. It's definitely closer to the opposite. Um, so I think Alex has had a great season so far, and he's really kind of cementing himself as that reliable veteran. We didn't really know where Alex Albon was these last couple of years because he just had, horrible teammates and not a great car. But now he has a much better teammate and a much better car, and he's still performing well. So it's great for Alex.
Yeah, the fans give Alex Albon a B. Just incredibly excited for Williams as they continue to move forward. They've got this solid driver lineup. Alex Albon has cemented himself, like you said, to be one of the better drivers on the grid. Cannot wait to see what they can continue to do. I also cannot believe that we're about to make the jump from Williams to Red Bull. What the heck happened? Max Verstappen, I've given him an A. Not a perfect year for Max Verstappen, has made a couple of mistakes, has crossed the line a couple of times. But it's hard for me to imagine what more he could do in that car. I mean, we see from the second driver and even from Max sometimes that car isn't great. But even that we were saying there's a semblance of a championship fight for him for like 8 rounds this season is insane. He's won multiple times. He's gotten multiple poles, finished on the podium. I don't know what more he could do. It hasn't been perfect. He's made some mistakes, but surely he's wringing the neck out of that car. And I've got to give him an A for it because it's just insane. We know that car is horrible. I don't want to say horrible. Maybe I don't know where that car is, but it shouldn't be competing for wins. It's so hard with the Red Bull drivers. I don't know, but I do think Max is deserving of an A.
Yeah, I'm the only thing keeping me from giving Max an A plus. I've also given him an A. The only thing keeping me from giving him an A plus is his move up the inside of George, and that was just not. That was the Max Verstappen of old. I'll call it that, and I just yeah can give him an A plus with that on his record. But yeah, Max is absolutely fantastic this season. Like you said, wringing the neck out of the car, and I cannot imagine where Red Bull would be if they had any other driver in the car. Probably down there at the bottom with Haas. But yeah.
Well, mathematically, we would have started this video off with them if they didn't have Max Verstappen because that is not good for them at all. The fans gave Max Verstappen a B. Yuki Tsunoda, this was another one that was incredibly difficult for me because he started the year off so strong at Racing Bulls, and I was like, yes, he deserves this promotion. Surely he's going to do a little bit better than Liam Lawson. He has and has not at the same time. He scored some points once, yippee-ki-yay. Other than that, he's been getting knocked out in Q1 and Q2, been crashing into so many people recently. He's collecting 10-second penalties like it's the Infinity Stones. He's just getting those every single weekend. It's been awful for Yuki Tsunoda. You can tell that he has no confidence in the car. If you watch his onboard versus Max Verstappen, he's lifting way more. He's braking earlier. It has gone south for Yuki Tsunoda. And based on the majority of the season, which he's finished or which he's been in the Red Bull, I can't give him any higher than a D. It has not been a good year for Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, I've gone with the D minus. I think it's been basically worst case scenario for Yuki, unfortunately. When he got that promotion, there was a lot of, I think, hope from everybody that Yuki coming into the car would kind of turn it around. And I think there's no discredit to Yuki. I just think that car is worse than everybody realized. And I think Yuki's still a great driver. I mean, he was showing it at the end of last season, the first 2 races of this season. I mean, Yuki has experience and he's doing well, but the results just aren't coming for him. And I think we've talked about it a lot before, but Yuki's very much so a momentum-based driver, and he has all of the bad momentum. Not that he has no momentum right now. He has a lot of momentum moving in the wrong direction, in my opinion. But yeah, Yuki getting a D minus from me. Again, just the closest thing to an F. Can't give him an F yet because there's still 12 races left to go this season. And he can definitely turn it around, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, That F is still sitting there for him at the end of the year if it gets even worse. The fans gave him a D. George Russell, I've given him an A minus. I think it's been a great year for George Russell. I think he's outperformed expectations. Started the year off incredibly consistent, had that podium streak, has tailed off a little bit, but has also won a race. With the only non-Red Bull or McLaren driver to win a race this season. I think he's performed incredibly well. The fact that we're talking about him maybe losing his seat is insane, but I think it's been a good year for George. I've given him an A minus.
Yeah, let's pause there for a second. I think definitely losing his seat.
Okay, just give me your grade. All right, all right.
All right. My grade for George Russell, B plus. I think it's been a great season from George. He's had a couple of kind of up and down performances recently. But yeah, like you said, he has won a race, which has been fantastic. And he's doing, I think, a good job of also kind of showing Kimi the ropes and helping Kimi kind of get up to speed in the car as well, which is cool to see.
Yeah, the fans gave him an A. If George loses his seat, which it's kind of looking like he might, but Kimi's out of contract too, so who knows what could happen. Either way, George will be a hot commodity. He will land on his feet. He'll get another seat next year. Not worried about that at all. Kimi Antonelli, I've given him a C plus. He's had some highs this year, the sprint pole in Miami, the podium in Canada with George for his first podium. He's also had some lows. He's got knocked out in some Q1s and Q2s. He crashed into Max in Austria. I think he's been slightly below expectations. He was heralded as the next great thing, as the next Max Verstappen, and he's had flashes, but also George Russell has more than double his points right now. He's holding Mercedes back in the constructors fight against Ferrari right now for sure. I think he's going to continue to improve in the second half of the year. Would not be surprised if this grade went up, but right now it's a C plus.
I've also given Kimi a C plus. I think I agree with you. I think he's slightly below expectations. I think we all kind of thought he was going to come in and, win his first race at some point during this season. But as it's shaking out, the McLaren, I think, is way more dominant than everyone thought it would be. So I don't know that there's an opportunity for that for Kimi, but definitely more podiums are on the table. And I think the Mercedes is going to get better. We have a lot more races that are going to be kind of cooler temperature races coming up in the second half of the season, which definitely suits their car better. So I think Kimi's got some good opportunities, but just haven't seen enough to move him into the B category.
Yeah, we're about to see another Mercedes Las Vegas masterclass where Kimi Antonelli can get his first win in a place he's not even old enough to enter most of the buildings in. That's all right. We'll see what happens there. The fans gave Kimi Antonelli a B. Charles Leclerc, I've given him a B plus. This has been a strange year for Charles Leclerc. I think it's been his worst year in a couple years at Ferrari. I think he has not performed as well as we thought. Certainly not as well as you thought when you predicted him to win the championship this year. But he's outperformed his teammate. He's gotten some podiums. He's probably gotten the most out of that car. Ferrari is just underwhelming. Hasn't had the pace we thought they were going to have. But it feels like Charles Leclerc is one of those drivers that, can sneak out a win, sneak out some poles. And it just hasn't felt like he's had that extra bit of oomph in him this year. I've got to give him a B plus.
Yeah, I'm going with a B for Charles. It just seems like he's a little kind of, I don't know, confused. Like he doesn't know what to do in certain situations, and I think that just speaks to how difficult this Ferrari is to drive. I think it's definitely not as good as we expected. Personally, I predicted at the beginning of the season to win Drivers' Championship as well as Ferrari to win the Constructors. I was oh so wrong in that prediction, but you know what? That's okay. And we saw it last season. They kind of turned it around. They were fighting for the Constructors' Championship in Abu Dhabi last year. So it could happen. Could still get a turnaround. I don't think they'll be fighting for the Constructors' Championship, but maybe they'll win a few races. We did see a Ferrari 1-2 in person in Austin last year. So anything is possible. But yeah, Charles just kind of seems confused, doesn't really know what to do with that car, because I do think it is just a difficult Ferrari to drive.
If you radioed your engineer complaining about water in your seat and he responded with "must be the water," you'd probably be a little confused too, all right? He has had enough of Ferrari this season, that is for sure, with Charles Leclerc. The fans gave him a B. Lewis Hamilton, I've given him a B minus. Upon further reflection, I don't think Lewis Hamilton has had as bad of a year as some people have said that he's had. He's beaten Charles Leclerc a couple times, but most weekends he is a little bit behind Charles Leclerc. But even with Lewis Hamilton being one of the greatest of all time, that's kind of expected. Charles Leclerc's a great driver. He's been at that team longer. He's embedded. We knew it was going to take Lewis a little bit of time to get up to speed. He won the sprint race in China, had a great weekend this past time out in Silverstone where he was ahead of Charles. He's not that far behind Charles in points. It's only like 13 points. So I think it's been a fairly solid year from Lewis, and he is trending in the right direction with that car and in that team. So I've given him a B minus.
Yeah, I've also gone with the B minus. I think we're only going to see better stuff from Lewis, in the future. I think being at one team for like 13, 14 years and then jumping up to a completely different system where everything is like the same but also different at the same time is probably, more difficult than he anticipated. And I think we're only going to see better things from Lewis, but I do think he has been slightly behind Charles in the season as a whole. And I think that's why I've gone with the B minus.
Yeah, the fans gave him a C, which seems really harsh. Lando Norris, I've given him an A. It's been a good year from Lando, borderline great year from Lando, especially these past couple races. He's been swinging that momentum in his favor, really narrowing down that championship fight. Started the year off strong with a pole and a win, had a little bit of a dip, but he's truly back on an upward trajectory, has performed well, has qualified well. It's been a really good year from Lando. It's hard for me to criticize him. There's been a couple of mistakes, but everyone's made some mistakes this year. All in all, it's been a solid year from Lando. I'm giving him an A.
Yeah, I totally agree. Lando, especially as of late, has been fantastic. The only reason why I'm not giving him an A plus is because of his teammate. I think they've both had fantastic years, and Lando's certainly taken a step forward. I think we are seeing a much more mature Lando Norris now. Especially that he's like in the middle of a close title fight. Yes, he was in the title fight last year, but I don't know at any point, there was an imminent threat that Lando was going to take over and then win the championship last year with how good that Red Bull still was and how good Max was performing last year. I don't know that it was ever like really in question if Lando could win the championship, but now that he's in a tight battle with his teammate, who is also a very quick driver in a very quick car, I think that's maturing Lando quite a lot, and we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah, cannot wait to see how the rest of the year unfolds and what grade we end up giving him after 24 races. The fans gave him a B. Oscar Piastri, I have given him an A plus for the 2025 season so far. I think he has had an incredible year. He's outperformed expectations. I don't think any of us really expected him to go on that run that he did, where he was outperforming Lando consistently. Yes, we've kind of seen him get a little frazzled recently, maybe feel more of the pressure from Lando Norris. Couldn't get by him in Austria, makes the mistake to lose this race at Silverstone, but he still got the championship lead. I still think he's outperformed everyone's expectations. I'm giving him an A+.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oscar is the only driver I gave an A+ to as well. I think, he's, again, exceeded everyone's expectations, especially Lando Norris's expectations. But yeah, Oscar's just kind of Mr. Calm, Cool, and Collected. And, he's also, I think, maturing a lot in this championship battle and showing that he is one of the top drivers on the grid, if not the top driver on the grid this season. So, yeah, it's been really fun to watch.
Incredibly fun to watch indeed. The fans gave him an A. So there you have it. That is all drivers graded over the first 12 races of the season. We have 12 races left. We've got to soak it in. We've got a championship fight. Maybe a third driver can get in it. I don't think so. But we've got a 2-driver championship fight within the same team. It's going to be incredible. Soak it in, because we are not guaranteed anything next year. Who knows what could happen? We could see Max go to Mercedes, win every single race, and win the championship by 250 points. So soak in this fight while we still have it. Before we get out of here, Brandon, what are your parting podium thoughts?
Regarding Podium Thoughts, it's been a great first a great first half of the season. Can't wait for the second half. Thank you all for your participation in voting on the driver grades. It's really awesome to see that and get to share that with you guys in our episodes. So Thank you for participating. We're looking forward to the second half of the season. We've got a lot of awesome content coming out over the summer break, as well as in the back half of the season. So stay tuned for that, but we're excited.
Yeah, I didn't know what you were going to say for your podium thoughts because there was no race for you to be excited for, but he's excited for the back half of the season. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Can't wait to see how we look back on these grades at the end of the year. If we think we were stupid, if we got them right, and they continue on this path for the rest of the year. Whomst amongst us knows. As always, thank you for watching or listening to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast. It means the world that you let us talk to you about Formula One. Before you go, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all the things, follow us on all the social medias. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next week for who knows what, because there's still no Formula One going on and it's incredibly sad, but we will be here. Don't you worry. Until then, have a great day and God bless.
See ya.